In other news, the tourism sector in KwaZulu-Natal is hoping for a bumper Easter holiday season this year to help it bounce back after the COVID-19 setbacks of the past 12 months or so. Hotels and resorts are planning to roll out the red carpet to domestic travellers, many of whom have already booked getaways across the Zulu Kingdom. Authorities saying that the province has recorded a 65% booking rate. So could this be the start of the revival of one of South Africa's most critical economic sectors? Well, MEC for Tourism and Economic Development, Ravi Pillay, that's in KZN, Ravi Pillay joins us now via our video line, and he is in Durban this morning. Ravi, good morning. Welcome to the show this morning. Perhaps just for a bit of perspective, give us a sense of the industry, the tourism industry pre-COVID, and the impacts that the pandemic has had on the sector over the past year.
Good morning, Michelle, and good morning to your viewers. Yes, tourism is a key pillar of the KZN economy and has been for many, many decades. Just to give you a perspective, I think in 2019, the calendar year 2019, we probably had a total of about 6 million visitors, both international and domestic. Last year, that came down to well under 2 million. So that gives you the sense of the impact that it had. We were quite hopeful of a very big bounce back in December, and the signs were all good. In fact, we did do reasonably well in many areas. The bookings went up to 80%, but it was impacted by the second wave. We're seeing a new energy now, and as you yourself have said, there's 65% bookings for the Easter, which is very, very encouraging. Across the entire province, from the coast to the Drakensberg.
Yeah, so I mean, these are encouraging for the sector, Ravi, but as always, you know, we talk about trying to reignite the tourism sector as one of the drivers of our economy in the midst of preparing for a third wave of infections. What's the sector doing to ensure that it does its part in this regard?
No, I think they're very conscious. I think in every communication, in every engagement, we are preaching this inbuilt consciousness and discipline. Whether it's from the tourists themselves, there's the concept of a family bubble or a group of friends bubble that reflects the consciousness and discipline of doing things in the COVID period. From the establishments themselves, I've been across the province, and I'm quite convinced that they've put in place mechanisms and systems that reflect COVID-19 consciousness. In fact, the message we are giving is that you can be safe and have fun at the same time. It just requires a little bit of inbuilt consciousness and discipline. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, as international numbers obviously have dwindled over the past year or so, there is a greater reliance now on domestic travelers. But many of these attractions, tourism attractions across our country in various provinces, they are a pipe dream for most South Africans. You know, the prices are tailored in a lot of these sectors towards international travelers. Are you seeing that these prices, particularly, you know, for example, game drives, staying on a game farm, for example, are they being more tailored to a South African budget to attract more people?
I think you'll find that the prices are very competitive. In fact, I think the sector as a whole is embarking on a very aggressive domestic marketing campaign, and that means they understand that 95% of their clientele or customers will come from the domestic sector, and they have to respond to that. I think fortunately in KZN, we cater for all sectors from the higher end to the low budget sector. And yes, to answer your question, I think you're going to be very competitive. The industry is realistic. The industry is very understanding as to what the situation is. It's very much a question of re-establishing, consolidating. It's not a time to make profit. It's a time to regain stability.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about regaining stability, Ravi, because so many businesses have been impacted by the sheer inability to generate revenue. They've had to lay off many of their employees. This 20 million rand special fund for small businesses in KwaZulu-Natal, how far do you reckon this fund will go to help mitigate some of the damage done during the past year?
Well, we looked at the impact of the national 200 million, which was rolled out last year. From that 200 million, KZN, I think, got about 630 odd beneficiaries. To place that in perspective, Western Cape got about 900 and Gauteng got about 1,200 beneficiaries. That was capped at 50,000 Rand per qualifying beneficiary. And our research showed that didn't go far enough, did not reach as many people as we would have liked. So we put our hands in our pockets, so to speak, to find some resources, and we found this 20 million to direct towards this sector. We hope to reach 400 beneficiaries. That will take us to 1,030 altogether in the province who have received this benefit. But it's not only small businesses, it's also tour guides. We've been promoting tour guides in an aggressive way to capacitate young people in the sector, and even we want them to get a small amount of about 4,500. So to answer your question, over 400 people or businesses will be beneficiaries of this 20 million Rand.
Yeah.
Of course, there are qualifying criteria. You know, you must be a small business. You can't have more than 2.5 million annual turnover. Your tax affairs and employment registration issues must be in order, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lifeline for small businesses, isn't it? But it's a short-term lifeline. And so what is needed now is, for example, if it's a restaurant or it's the red bus taking you on a tour of the city, what we need is bums on seats, but again, amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes. I think that requires two things. It requires us to build confidence at the first level for people to feel confident enough to go out. And then, of course, that must go with the necessary consciousness and discipline.
Yeah.
The Drakensberg, even over this last weekend, the long weekend that we've just come out of, showed some encouraging numbers. And as you say, 65% a couple of weeks before the actual weekend is very promising.
Yeah, and of course we'll get a better sense of those numbers in the coming weeks, Ravi. But for those of us who are watching this interview and perhaps we haven't decided what we're going to do for the Easter long weekend, give us a sense of what KZN has on offer.
Oh, Michelle, we've got it all. We've got the beautiful coast from the south coast where I was yesterday, to eThekwini itself, Ilembe, that's the Belito area, to the far north in Kanyaguda, which is Cozy Bay, Sodwana Bay, the Smangaliso Wetlands Park, the number of game reserves of the Big Five, going to the Midlands Meander is another experience where the Mandela capture site is also located. The battlefields for those with an interest in history in Dundee, and of course the majestic Drakensberg, North, Central and Northern. All of them provide a varied experience, which I'm sure will rejuvenate anyone looking for a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravi, I reckon as much as we are relying on domestic travelers, you and the rest of the sector looking forward to international travel opening again?
No, absolutely, as soon as possible. We're not taking it for granted. We are keeping our contacts. We are keeping our marketing going. But we understand the world out there is a different place. We might think we're having it bad, but other parts of the world are having it much tougher, and we have to be conscious of that. So for now, it's the aggressive drive on the domestic market, but we will certainly keep things alive as far as the potential of the international market is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravi Pillay, thank you so much for your time this morning on the AM Report. He's the KZN Tourism MEC, as we look at the industry trying to build back, particularly now as the Easter weekend approaches. The